Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode. And so, what could the poetry of a hidden life imply? Are we human beings just what we see in front of our eyes? Or has there this whole time been another way the world has been turning? In the journey of a lifetime, my attention has played with truth. The world itself is a revelation. It is an experiential revelation. Of an existential reality. We cannot ignore how we exist, but it seems the species has not wondered about how experience exists. We experience existence, but to wonder about poetically the existence of experience. I want to read for the viewers a passage about consciousness. Consciousness, at its simplest, is sentience and awareness of internal and external existence. This is not something I've written, guys. This is just something online I'm reading. Consciousness, at its simplest, is sentience and awareness of internal and external existence. However, the lack of definitions has led to millennia of analyses, explanations, and debates by philosophers, theologians, linguisticians, and scientists. Opinions differ about what exactly needs to be studied or even considered consciousness. In some explanations, it is synonymous with the mind, and at other times, an aspect of mind. In the past, it was one's inner life, the world of introspection, of private thought, imagination, and volition. Today, it often includes any kind of cognition, experience, feeling, or perception. It may be awareness, awareness of awareness, or self-awareness, either continuously changing or not. The disparate range of research, notions, and speculations raises a curiosity about whether the right questions are being asked. Examples of the range of descriptions, definitions, or explanations are simple wakefulness, one's sense of selfhood or soul explored while looking within, being a metaphorical stream of contents, or being a mental state, mental event, or mental processes of the brain. You see, the incredible thing about the nature of our mind, I would say, is simply this, that it appears as if there is a singular existence, but there is access to information from two dimensions of reality. Just like we have two eyes that see the same, it's as if we are being two worlds in one moment. Now, when I was younger, I was raised based on like who I am as a person. I was raised in Iran, and Iran is a theocratical society. And I would see the behavior of religious people, the behavior of secular people, and the idea of spirituality was around also. So there was the concept, it was as if, imagine being born in a world and they're like, okay, you got a body, okay, you got a mind, okay, you got a soul, you know. And so it seemed to me that the soul was inaccessible. You know, in religious traditions, at least those of the monotheistic kind, the soul is considered as the secret of the creator, of God. But in the secular society, the concept of the soul doesn't exist, you know. Soul is kind of replaced with consciousness. But something that since childhood I felt that was accessible, something that we didn't know. I have this feeling that the nature of human intelligence, just the nature of any human being that's born in a world, it's as if we want to know the world. We want to know why we're experiencing the world, and ultimately what is the nature of attention. You know, and there's clues all around. I'll get to the clues, but I'll say this first. In my youth, I found a fascination for the mind. The mind seemed to be the accessible component of the soul and the accessible component of the body. The mind seemed to be the common denominator of the known and the unknown, what the unknown and the known had in common. So since childhood, my attempts to explain the unexplainable to myself, it led me to a moment where I realized that what was living my life wasn't me. And that was one of the most profound experiences. You know, as a child, the mind plays with expectation. You know, when you get older, your mind doesn't play with expectation. It just kind of knows it's there. You know, it's like expectations come and go, just like thoughts entering in and out of the void. But the biggest point of realization, a huge realization factor for my life, was that I noticed that who I think I am is being observed in an unknown way, as if before my free will pulls the strings of my persona, there is a moment where the person cannot be anything, you know? That's the remarkable nature of instantaneously existing as a conscious experience. Something that even in modernity, you know, it's like what I was reading for you, this definition of consciousness, this explanation on consciousness, is as if, why are there questions? Why have philosophers, you know, throughout history been born to tackle this issue? And really what it is that the method we are using to understand ourselves is incomplete compared to how we are experiencing the problem of our existence. So what I mean is that specifically this is one of the most important experiences of my life. I often shared in these talks, but pretty much I think it was around 2011-12. There's this place in Toronto, Canada called Edwards Gardens, this, you know, botanical park. You know, very lovely place. And there was this kind of like, you know, you can't tell if it's a river or a stream. And so there was this rock in the middle of, it was kind of like a mini river, okay? And there was this rock in the middle, and I remember it was at a time of my life where I felt my persona was tangled with reality. You know, I felt that, I say it poetically often in these talks, that I felt I was in a sort of karmic quarantine. As if I had freedom in my inner life to some degree, Not completely, but I had some sort of ability, and it was as if my inner life and outer life were so out of sync that I had just found a moment in this lifetime to go sit on a rock in the middle of a river and to just wonder. And what I realized, the most fascinating realization, was that for a moment my mind questioned itself. So this is what I really feel meditation is. Meditation is accessing, allowing the moment to become a mirror of how your mind is happening. So as I was sitting on this rock, I asked myself the question, who am I? And an answer came. Like literally, I could just notice as if the question came, who am I? And my mind generated an answer. But then I asked the question, who am I, again, and my mind generated a different answer. And I asked myself, how can I be two answers to the same question of my moment? And that's when I realized this whole time, in this lifetime of searching for knowledge, there is something known as the presence of the unknown. This is where reverence, sacred divinity, and all those moments where you can say poetically, for the religious person, it would be that moment where they're waiting to see if their prayer is heard, you know? It's really a moment where fascination arises, because what stops fascination is when we know something. When we don't know how something works, we're still fascinated to understand it. So it's a relationship of a ratio of known variables in the moment and unknown variables. And it was as if in that moment where I was sitting on that rock, my mind had noticed more unknown variables than known, and so it couldn't live in accordance to the previous persona's structure. I in some sense realized that there's a hidden life, and this hidden life is how the unknown is moving knowledge, rather than how knowledge encapsulates the unknown, cages the unknown in certain images, and then acts like it knows it. It's very strange. We don't know who or what we are, but we are being it. And what is knowledge? Knowledge is a microcosmic game in a macrocosmic scenario. And so really, to truly appreciate the macrocosm, every person listening to me, you have to learn to appreciate the unknown moments in your life. You know, we have built a civilization where status is based on what you know. But the greatest minds on our planet, the greatest, you can say, scholars in this realm, once they have learned everything, they are left with the unknown. We are creatures. It's as if, it's kind of hilarious. There's so many shapes. You know, there's, there's substance, space, color, geometry, when we look at the world. But it's hilarious. It's as if knowledge has come to prepare us for the unknown. And to live a known lifetime is in some sense to realize that the unknown is present. The nature of the human mind, lesser species like birds and squirrels, like, you know, there's no expectation for them to kind of like wonder about the cosmos as deeply as the human being. It's as if lesser species are bestowed with the task of still realizing how knowledge works. But the human species, we are here to notice the unknown. The unknown is the greatest inspiration. The unknown is when a person has been using an egoic structure to figure out reality and realizes the egoic structure is in space, and space has no owner. So, as bizarre as it may seem, we're in a world that we don't know. So really, every human being's strategy is, what do I do with what I don't know? You know? You know, sometimes I have ideas, theological, you know, questions of my own. And I wondered, in some sense, why God, the concept of God, why the world needs to be created. You know, that was a very big question for me. That why did God create something just to watch it return to itself? Why would someone extend a world just to, in some sense, take it back? And so it's as if the poetry of a hidden life is the purpose of greater dimensions fulfilled in lesser ones. I often wonder about the future, because it seems like we're all living for it. I wonder if truth wants to see its own greatness. When I think about the concept of creation, I think about the source of reality being an artist. And when you wonder why an artist does something, you know, it's as if the artist has realized it is capable, and it's as if, like, poetically, if God was an artist, it's as if, why did God create the world? Because it knew it can, because it had to attempt novelty. Novelty seems to be poetically the purpose of divine reality. I think of it this way, that because human consciousness has at first discovered itself stationed in a changing world, the novelty becomes the changeless. This might be a strange thing to say, but I think every member of our human species is subconsciously seeking immortality for the body and eternity for the mind. What is the human being but the brain's ability to utilize information to structure, to build a value system? And what does it mean that people understand each other, you know? It's as if to understand someone is to get a sense of how their eyes are not just open to the world, but how their eyes are opening the world in value. Because we're temporary, we're seeking the other side. Because we look at a changing world and there's suffering, pain, and whatnot, you know, we think that the pleasure is beyond the, let's say a divine pleasure is beyond this world, you know. When I was raised in Iran, you know, a lot of people, what was monitoring their behavior was just this idea that if they act well, they can go to heaven, they can go to paradise. You know, it's as if it's a searching for pleasure. It's the animal brain's escape strategy for suffering. If I do this, I will get somewhere. Do you see what I'm saying? Reality is the relationship of an unknown attention with a knowable existence. Just like we can have the attitude that we are temporary now and we may be eternal after this life, one can have the attitude that we were eternal before we were temporary. You know, it's like rather than being entrapped in a temporary reality, it can be seen as if material existence is the most divine thing, you know, for a lesser dimension. You know, I ask myself, you know, let's say there's a, you know, an employee in a company. And if that employee doesn't understand their role and doesn't understand their position, it's as if they have not and doesn't understand the value of the company. It's in some sense they cannot, in some sense, be valuable in the company, right? It's as if when we know what we are, it's easier for us to behave and to be confident in our behavior. But the thing about life is that you spontaneously appear to yourself, right? Sure, the body was born, you know, but when it comes to conscious psychology, Jacques Lacan called it the mirror effect. A child looks in the mirror and it's like, yo, that's me. You know, the child realizes its reflection in reality. Some animals don't. Some psychopathic, you know, at least that's how I term it, you know, these messed up, you know, university researchers, they put a mirror in a forest and they connected the mirror to a tree. That means rather than putting like a big mirror, right, they put like a mirror, they connected a mirror to a tree, and there was this bear walking by, and the bear sees its own reflection, then moves past the tree and doesn't see anything else, right? And the bear freaks out. Guys, I don't know if you've ever seen an animal freak out, aside from, like, let's say human beings, but an animal like a bear, like, get frightened. It's like a but anyways, what I'm trying to say is that we pinpoint our self in reality by noticing our reflection. The young child's mind does that. It in some sense activates as an individual conscious entity. When you look at super young children, they're conscious, but they're not individuals, because individuality is an acceptance of self, really. And it doesn't matter what sort of ideology it is clothed in, right? Anytime a person feels they know what they are, they feel comfortable being themselves, But the whole point is, we are born not ideologically knowing what we are. It's as if there is an instantaneity to how nature knows how to be. It's like, strangely, our organs, they trust the design of the body, the shape of the body, right? And similarly, if there is a universal body, it's like man's greatest result is to trust his world, and in trusting his world, realizing he is being the macro and microcosm at the same time. To be a human being is like the liftoff platform to the eyes of a totality. We're not here to be just in a moment. We are here to be our whole moment. There's a word called liminal, Liminal. And I would say, to some degree, I'll create this term that mysticism is like realizing you're a liminal animal. It's like noticing moments that are rare or moments that have not been observed. By human consciousness. That means, imagine right now, as you're listening to me, how many things are happening on Earth that human consciousness doesn't know about. How many ways can the world be present that our personality cannot capture, cannot identify? And because this episode is called Poetry of a Hidden Life, I'm gonna read some poems right now. It's as if, why do we write poetry? So the world can see how our heart beats in our mind, Can hear the heartbeats of our mind. There's a poem it's not actually a poem, it's an entry from this unpublished work of mine called Commands of a Celestial General. So this is the passage. It says, "Have these words learned to crawl before walking into the imagery of many worlds. Ask yourself a question that purifies your heart in an instant. Not that the heart is impure, but involuntary beatings are a choice of interpretation. So what gives way to the new efficient methods of man's perception? The simple availability of conscious self-acknowledgement gives the platform of our attention infinite space to take off and to be taken off. What is free before what can be free? The questions of the quest are creating the journey and the mist to come. Existence is not a void when you do not avoid who and all that you are." There's a poetry book I wrote called The Only. I'm going to read from that. I'll start off with the first one. Reverence of the unkind. You who have dwelled in the belly of the beast, where is the hunger of all existence going? Some have found madmen to be wiser than the wisest. In the totality of your being is joy ready to take its seat. The officials in all official contracts have been ripped apart. Are you the extraterrestrial allowance that you shall become? For the compass of the compassionate was always compassion. There are no eyes that do not belong to you. If infinity tapped you on the shoulder, would you be able to feel the touch of all existence? All structures have been broken. All names have dissolved into the moment. The road belongs to the heart of the clear. Take all shapes and drop them in the ocean of your devotion, for the unshaped never needed shaping. You carry too much when infinity never needed luggage. Are you free? Can such a question march into your temple like this? What emotions give all motion its feeling? The unkind have forgotten of the rewind button. For you were never here and I was never I. In the end of ends, in the end of ends, there's only one. For once the sky looks at you, you are no longer faced. All masks have been broken, the only is felt. I wanted to say the viewers can choose numbers like poetry. Actually, I don't know how many poems there are. Wait. There's 27 poems. I wanted to say like the viewers can select a number and I'll read them. Read that poem. 1 out of 27 or 2 out of 27, but you know, hilariously there's 0 viewers right now. I guess this is how this moment was happening. I'll read a poem, number 26. Number 26, the poem's called "O Spiritual Man." O spiritual man, what has mankind come to? Is the ocean mistreating the drop? Is the future a fantasy forgotten? As we dive on the outskirts of the edges of our mind, the sun never moved, for it always moved us. The unborn dream of an existence transparently kind. Is the roar of the lion enough? O spiritual man, you have lived through many eyes. What sight do you desire at desire's end? Walk with the hope of the cosmos. The love of man shall guide him to his whole. A future without interpretation. Could you already be there? Could the mind possess nothing? A world opens as a world ends. In the shadow of all mistakes, you are the light. O spiritual man, in the wilderness of an unknown mind, remember who you are through the nothingness of all. O spiritual man, continue towards your beyond. You know, to be alone is a very interesting experience. It's an experience as if your eyes belong to a moment undisturbed. You know, it's getting close to a decade, I've been wondering about what is the betterment of mankind? How can everything become better? And I have realized we're so different, and the worlds behind our eyes are so different, that really from one angle it's kind of impossible to get 8 billion creatures that are living in different worlds internally to externally behave in a certain way. It's as if, let's say there's in a country there's dictatorship. The dictator can control the physical outcome, but it cannot control the inner workings of the minds of individuals. Our inner lives have a freedom that our outer lives don't. And if we can use the freedom of our mind to advance our bodies, then in some sense genius was its own future. There's one viewer and there's one like. I'm gonna read the 11th poem. Let's see what that is. Shadows in the river. The clumsy are never clumsy, and you are never you. Is reality a meal for a hungry man? The deserts have many secrets under the sun. Are you ready to get burnt by the flame of another dawn? In savagery, we all remember the kindness of man. The door of self-awareness is opened. Who is it that awaits your company once you are bankrupt in an illusion? Gracefully embrace all worlds. Be kind to the face that smiles through another glare. You are in the company of many lovers, my beloved. In the vicious madness of the heavenly fathers that created you. Learn of the loneliness in the island of, in quotations, I. A river is directed by the nature of its design. A shadow may flow in the river, but you, my beloved, are the light. It's humanities poetically, guys. I'm gonna go back to the talk. Consciousness enters an automated system and takes charge of certain components of an automated system. What the world is something that's happening on its own. It's happening in accordance to its own forces. What man's world is what is happening in accordance to the force he can intervene, he can control. So it's kind of like consciousness is this timeless attention, and this timeless attention activates its intelligence in time as a creature. But the purpose of this is to realize that the world belongs to the world. And it's another way of saying that our eyes, even though present in a biological body, the presence of our intelligence in the body is not how the body is part of the world. It's how the world is part of an unknown viewer, an unknown witnesser. It's as if so many people are seeking freedom, but we don't realize when we try to comprehend the world, it becomes meaningless to our limitations. What one's hidden life is how a person has more access than their biological eyes. It's like we're not just seeing reality. We are aware that we are seeing reality. Right now in this moment, I'm looking out from my balcony. And I'm wondering, like, okay, I'm seeing a world. But what's the point of seeing a world? And the point is how what is looking through our eyes is as unknown as how the whole moment is happening. I'm pretty much wondering, how these, I'll say it this way, it's like a bunch of creatures on a rock moving in an unknown way in an unknown world. It's like something that is, it's like an unknown big event has found within it small known events. It's like the question of how else does our mind move aside from positioning reality in accordance to how the brain is happening. Something we know, it's like, what does a person do in an unknown situation? And it's similar to being cast away on an island. To be found in a world is very similar, actually. So we have to use what is accessible. And what becomes accessible is based on the value we give it. Imagine somebody wants to, put a nail in a wall to like hang up a painting. And somebody looks at this person who's like using the palm of his hand or using his fingers to push the nail in the wall, and it's difficult. Right? And imagine somebody comes up to this person and says, hey man, why don't you use a hammer? Right? And the person's like, I don't believe in hammers. Or the person's like, what's a hammer? A hammer is meaningless. And by their inner realms not valuing the hammer, they don't get an access to an efficient way to hammer the nail into the wall and put the painting up. So really, it's about how our minds are perceiving value in what is there to even see, right? So it's like we've reached that point in human history where we're becoming conscious how our inner lives influence our outer lives. Poetically, somebody could say there's three lives. There is an inner life, an outer life, and then there's an unknown life. It's hilarious, you know, it's like we're one biological body, but the mind is occurring in a sort of trio fashion. You know, just like in Christianity, we have the concept of, what is it, the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost. It's like we have the body, the Son. We have the mind, the Holy Ghost, and poetically the soul is like the Father. And so it's like an unknown truth is watching its known simulation and wondering when this known simulation will realize the unknown truth. So it's another way of saying all the information in our life, it's like it's not like the purpose of the human being is to just use information to understand life, but it's as if the purpose of information in the life of an unknown awareness to a moment, it's as if the purpose of reality is hilariously to show us what is real. That means reality is part of the formula of what is real, but it's not the whole, it's not all of it. You know, and this might sound strange what I'm saying, because the concept of reality is like, okay, it's a moment, it's a world of realness, you know. But the implication of an inner reality, you know, it's like we went through a phase in human history where our outer lives experienced complexity. I find now we're going through a phase in human civilization where our inner lives are experiencing complexity. And then eventually it will go to a point where we're going to realize duality is simultaneously being witnessed. So it's as if the failures and the successful are present in an unknown world. So the unknown is witnessing the qualities it projects dualistically. Pretty much eyes open and reality has shape and form. And what is the concept of identity? It is another way of saying where your attention, like a bird, has landed on, what branch it has landed on. I find myself in this moment to honestly have a feeling that just like my heart is happening, my heart is just, I don't think about my heart, it happens. I don't think about my breathing, it happens involuntarily. I have reached a point where reality is an involuntary expression, you know, and it's another way of saying Like, what is the evolution of the free will? The evolution of the free will is that it wants to control a world where it's defining the boundaries. So, it's kind of like the evolution of our consciousness, reaching the point where we don't want to just move our body, we want to move the world. Like, imagine somebody raising their hand in the air. It's like an instantaneous feeling. Okay, I'm going to raise my hand in the air, and the person raises their hand in the air. Super instantaneous. It's as if we are the body and we can raise our hand in there. Now, similarly, imagine we discovered, or maybe in the future they discover that the mind of the human being is involved with a planetary intelligent expression. So it would be another way of saying, like, right now, the limitations of my body are like what I can use my free will to move, right? But in the future, if, like, just like how somebody wants to raise their hand and they instantly can, it could be that the destiny of consciousness is to experience the whole moment as its body. So it would be another way of saying, just like we use our consciousness coordinates through free will and moving our, let's say, limbs, it's like another way of saying, in the future, the children of the future generations will be capable of moving their planetary body. And there is, this might sound strange, but like, I feel there is a perfect human archetype, and it's like, imagine there's an original human archetype. Okay, it's as if there's something that every human being somehow deep within them it's kind of like the search behind our eyes is the same for everybody. We're looking for something that we are, and so when we realize what we are, we get fascinated. I was watching this talent show on YouTube, and there was a singer, and this singer sang in such an incredible way that the judges were in tears, the audience was in tears, and pretty much the singer had access to sort of voice that could bring rapture, right? So rapture is in some sense a sort of, you can say, a state of awe, but a state that is so true that the being's imperfections for a moment fade. That's really rapture is kind of like the soul dancing, in through the body without the disturbance of the mind, without the intervention of the mind. And it was as if one moment of ability brought tears to the eyes of so many people. Why? Because they realize it's possible to do something like that. Humanity's greater purpose should be to, in some sense, go beyond the expectations of everybody. More than we need good people based on what the past thought was good, or bad people based on like the ignorance of the past. We just need new people. We need new realities. I can't think of any greater task of the mind, It's like the bees in nature, when they're trying to build a beehive, the bee doesn't just go to the same flower all the time, After some point, it explores multiple realities and brings its findings back to the tribe. We need an advanced era of human communication. We need to at least have one generation of human beings on this planet be like, okay, let's see what the most advanced thing is. The attempt of the advanced is poetically the greatness of the hidden life. I'm actually going to read for the viewers these articles I wrote in another unpublished book called The Source of Language. So this entry is titled Pegasus Doesn't Need a Parking Ticket, and it's from an unpublished book I wrote called The Source of Language. Is the journey of life your home? Is the journey of life your home? Has the poet's chaos emanated a new order? When are you not being yourself? The attention that is the moment is the subtle final state. Beyond thought, you were never a thinker. As self is rediscovered through an intuitive guidance, the propellers that the pilot of consciousness considers is made of infinity signs moving infinitely. What can be said when the words are not enough? How does the transcendentalist remember the cosmic transcendental activity that never stopped? Meditation is a clear mirror to your true nature. The way we think about life is the way the world is. Can you imagine the freedom of a sky that belongs to all human beings and to all minds? Your great work is more than advanced communication. Rather, most of your greatness involves seeing through the future of what you are now. Ideology is a battlefield. The wise fly over it. The sky is a great guy for the limited mind on the ground. How does life erupt beyond language? Once you witness life as it is, who could ever see a problem? The intelligence of the beings that we are surpass duality's definitions. You are a great contribution to the design of this endlessly evolving world. What gift shall you give humanity before you go? The vision of nature is never late or early. It is the ultimate presence of change. Either you live as a caged idea or you open your wings of silence and stillness and navigate as the mystic's omnipresent awareness. Life is not something to escape from, but to honorably transcend through. If you were in the greatest room this world could offer you, would you be satisfied or would you want to open the celestial door? To accept your life and to live its wonder and glory is pure cosmic honor. The unknown doesn't have much to teach, for it is the active teacher. Never fear yourself, for the self that has created that fear is also aware prior to that definition of reality. You are the fearless unknown, shining within every being's breath. Is consciousness going to resurface as the awareness of the cosmic duty of a God beyond judgment? The first miracle is how your eyes are open. The second miracle is how your eyes were never closed. Clarity is not a sight for sore eyes. Once you see the true sight of this world comes not from the eyes but the source of the mind. All questions are journeys around the universe. If the truths communicated through language and speech were all projection on a wall, the projector's active intelligence that is keeping the projection is consciousness, which is being projected out of a very unique existential lens. So unique that it is beyond our conception. One of the most crucial instruments that you can carry from this book is the simple wisdom that if you look at the source of language, you are it. Consciousness is present within greater dimensions than language. The language that is duality based is always in awe of how it is here. Study how your eyes are truly open. And when the time of transition comes, you will know the wisdom to how to close them. Be playful with life and do not fear the great companion that a conscious and quiet mind can be. The war on language begins with the individual's ignorance. The war on language begins with the individual's ignorance to its all-pervading collectivity. What secret has blinded you to the secret that you are? The world has opened its doors of manifestation for you. Now that you are here, don't forget to experience everything. Creativity is proportional to the vision of self. The truth of presence will always remain as a game to the personality that cannot see itself void yet. Compassion, love, devotion, and reunion are bunkers for the transcendentalists that want to be God's moving hand. How do our eyes speak to the light that has opened them? Once ethnocentrism has been transcended like an onion with every peel leading to the truth of emptiness within. Why did the Buddha close his eyes? Some great minds are not individual minds, they are the moment of the whole world. Do you see greatness moving in your veins? Break the chains of the ego. Break the chains of the ego and set the phoenix of ultimate change free beyond phonetics. Only a person who has truly accepted their self can truly witness that self change. Do not doubt a quiet mind, for it sees cosmic roars of unity that your eyes can't hear or even believe yet. The jar and the balloon are empty, both inside and outside. How will revelation dance next? Those who have embraced their silent and still nature truly see the world as it is. Because we are alive, we must be aware of all life. How would heaven walk in your shoes made of earth? As life reveals an unchanging moment, a glimpse beyond thought's blindfold. You are not just here to be a person, but the whole cosmos. Could a bird song be as beautiful as Buddha's silent sermon? Language is a subjective shape for a world of constant real change. Who shares the transcendentalist's awe? It's a playful task to try to break the mask of all creation. Has the Creator forgotten itself? How do howling wolves prey at night when they see the full moon? A multiplanetary species' first action must be to truly comprehend the nature of intelligence on its own planet. The depths must not be ignored. What secrets of the earth have we not yet revealed before the heavens? A content mind realizes the self has never gone anywhere and it could never have died, changed, or stopped. Is there divine cosmic attention within you? Serve your moment within all that you are. Every day is a great, I've written great in caps here, every day is a great day to contribute to. Beyond desires, doubts, and fear, the miracle of life guides itself in many beautiful ways. Who is it that breathes beyond ignorance? Reach for life's guiding hand and rise for the truth of now. Pegasus doesn't need a parking ticket. I'm going to read one more essay and a few final comments, and I'll end this off, guys. And whoever's listened or tuned in so far, thank you. A multiverse of 8 billion and more. That's the title of the entry. Look at all the people in the world. Isn't it fascinating that we have different DNA and are unique, and rather expounding upon our natural talents and inspirations, we seem to be obsessed about only a certain outline of the process of the human education. How shall the human system be advanced? It seems we're all a combination of unique colors on the same screen of life, each a universe of its own and being part of a universe. I find it can be said that when we are on a planet where each person is seeing through their own unique sight and universe, there is a multiverse present. We are in a multiverse of 8 billion people, and this is not even including all other life forms on and in and within this planetary sector. So now the awareness to the space that holds all those views in one moment is a witness in its true nature. Let life be more than a story dash idea. The evolution of consciousness begins with the resurrection of language into the Zen master's void clarity. Self-awareness leads to a transcendental mind, where sorry guys, I'm reading the first draft, like I'm seeing an incomplete sentence here. Self-awareness leads to a transcendental mind. Okay, somehow read this. Self-awareness leads to a transcendental mind. But the purpose of your consciousness leads into its clear natural state. If you have problems, you have not looked good enough. Book knowledge is like how one person recorded just a tiny bit of creation and human history on paper, and is knowledge inspired by the past or the present? Clarity is a great natural remembrance of your true nature. Learn from all life. That means yourself too. Find the equilibrium in which all expressions of the mind are beautiful and quiescent. The beauty of intelligence is revealed when faith is not destroyed, and the beauty of faith is revealed when the natural natural source of intelligence is not opposed. When universities teach about the true nature of the universe prospers. The emptiness of nature must be comprehended from within. Direct experiences of great value and contribution here. When self-inquiry aligns with the nature of how your moment happens, you will remember that presence is beyond personality. So this life is not a person, but all that the person can be beyond what it is aware of. Is your true intelligence nameless? Is the divine a game of secret initiation? Fear never existed. In the turbulence of imagination, you are limited. Do not try to just be a certain kind of idea. It may drain your energy away. When your intelligence is a presence, there is no duty ever abandoned. Could failure be an illusion? When you're itching for the I Ching or seeking intuitive guidance from a divine mirror within, all physicality is being observed from a non-physical state. We're living in the imagination of a mind beyond conception. The moment is absolute beyond measure. Does the universe have a self? Is the universal self still in a universe? How grand is the cosmos? Is our existential and experiential intelligence an all-pervading moment beyond linguistic exposure? The secrets of the world, contrary to popular belief, found in the silence and stillness of the observer, rather than the noise and movement of the observed. When the moment moves, that is called movement. One who has understood their true nature knows their moment is a close friend to the Sahaja Samadhi state. Nature knows what it is doing, only we have forgotten through ideas that never existed. How does emptiness speak to itself? Only silence knows. True knowledge is best accessed through natural self-realization. The advanced minds of dawn know the true library of truth is not across the street, but in the greatest forests of man's nature. The source of language is an awareness beyond chaos and order. The cosmos is mystical, and all are glimpses of eternity and the passage of manifestation in the eyes of man. Will the bus stops of the future keep us waiting for instant rides to other sectors of space in our galaxy? Can I smile in one instant on Earth and the next moment slide on Saturn's ring like a timeless child? There are no barriers when truth is the entrance of your breath into the God of continuity. Do not attack ideas or defend beliefs. In one moment, be free. Is the mirror to greater consciousness clean? Honestly, just appreciate your eyes, whoever you are. Appreciate how no one with your sight has ever existed before, and there is a sacredness to being part of a universal event. You know, it's as if the whole cosmos is a rock star and we're attending, the event, watching from the sides. Life is beautiful, but what beauty is truth's remembrance. That means it's another way of saying nothing is more beautiful than the truth. I think this is why Paul Dirac, this guy who came up with formulas of antimatter, he said that, he pretty much said that if we find a formula for all of reality or something, it has to be beautiful. Because what is beautiful to us is what we have not seen before, The other day I was walking, to the grocery store, and I saw, what I felt like one of the most beautiful women I have seen in a long time. And it was as if for a moment there was no thought, there wasn't anything. It's like we are in the presence of an incredible world with so many dimensions moving on their own, that at some point, when we wonder who and what our heart is beating for, it's like deep down we just want to see the future smile. We're all, think of it this way: the human psychology is conditioned in a way to live up to the expectations of the past. But Mr. Within is now saying, what sort of beauty and hidden treasures will we find if we try to meet the expectations of the future? I'll give you the perfect example of who and how I feel the archetype of the advanced communicator is pretty much the advanced humanity that's going to emerge. A good example for it would be as if, imagine there is a kingdom, okay, and nobody has seen outside of the walls of this kingdom. And so there are these great warriors, let's say these incredible warriors, these advanced warriors in the kingdom. And the advanced warriors, they have this feeling to go beyond the wall of the kingdom. And I'll say it differently, imagine there's a kingdom, and this kingdom is about to be sieged, and there's an army heading towards, heading towards the kingdom. It would be as if the advanced communicators are those human beings that saw the laughter, the joy, the benevolence, the compassion of every being now, And they realize that there has to come a percentage of human beings that become responsible for the future of the species. It's as if soon the kingdom of humanity will lift off into the clouds. You know, I hope that one day, for me, like a great victory would be that if one day somebody is listening to these Mr. Within talks in a sky city, you know, that would be an incredible victory. A species not afraid of the past, but fascinated by its future. The issue is we're living in a civilization where the regulating emotion, right? It's as if we're living in a world, I shouldn't say world, but let's say human civilization makes the entity feel incomplete. You know? It's as if, imagine with the human intelligence, there came a collective intelligence, and it's as if our species, due to its absence of honoring its future, has ignored its collective ability. what is the strategy? What strategy can a being have to a simulation of reality, right? And I was going over this. I don't know if it was muted or not, but I'll just recap. We either accept reality as a simulation. We either see that it's not a simulation. We either see that rather than there not being a simulation, there being nothing, there is truth. The simulation is the truth. Or this might be strange, but the simulation is the extension of truth. That means we are hilariously living in the shadow of a higher dimensional object. Just like how baffling it is that we're on a rock floating in the middle of nowhere. It could be the same level of, sense of person being baffled when they look at a tree and it's like a perfect cylinder extended in the soil. Imagine the first person to see a tree and not realize that it has roots, and realizing it has roots and being like, no way, it's like the truth of this tree extended into a soil that I could not see, but only when I brushed the soil aside, I found the roots of the tree. I think poetically, for the tree of knowledge or the presence of the soul, it is similar. When we wonder about how our personality is in a position, the personality is in a changing world. To be in a simulation means that the reality, truth changed. I'll tell the viewer something for now it's like, it's not accessible, but I have a vision, something I hope I'm capable of doing it in this lifetime. But I really wanted to open up a center and the research center, Imagine if this expands globally. A research center where human beings are archiving and we have databases of different human experiences. And it's as if we have pretty much minds acting like hunter-gatherers, but through experience. It's like we're gathering new experiences and we're using these experiences to advance civilization. When you look at bees and how bees build a beehive, right? Each bee plays its part. The bee goes out, goes on a bunch of flowers, comes back to the beehive, and then builds the beehive that, based on what it has, builds the beehive. And it's kind of like we're intelligent human beings and we have to use our intelligence, right? We have to go extract new dimensions, discover new dimensions, and we got to come back to the tribe, and we have to be the ones to implement something that only we could see into society, right? It's the same thing with inventors, right? Like let's say, let's say for example, Edison, before he invented the light bulb or whatnot, Edison, in his mind, the light bulb was existing. It's like without him inventing it, in his mind, he could see the light bulb glowing. But when he invented it, right, that's when others could see it glowing. And so it's like the purpose of our hidden lives or our inner lives or unknown life is, to some degree, the purpose of the inner life or the inner reality is to bring back your findings. It's like, just like we're journeying in a physical space-time continuum, we're also, the way consciousness is working is that it's journeying through an inner realm, and then based on its findings, based on its realizations of how its mind is working in the moment, the body finds capability to function. And it's kind of like saying, why do people need understanding? Or why is understanding like an antidote to fear? Because the purpose of all knowledge is to learn to trust the moment. The purpose of true knowledge. And if we are unknown beings, the only thing left is to trust how the moment is unknown, being unknown. It's like, imagine a person has a visible life, invisible life, and an inconceivable life. It's like you trust your visible life, the person did a backflip, did parkour. The person trusts their invisible life. The person sang music or, spoke poetry or gave a talk or whatever, right? And ultimately, the tree needs to trust its roots. We need to trust the inconceivable to go beyond conception. Now, how we can trust the inconceivable, I feel this is why we have emotions. Emotions are a way of kind of like an evolving biological body. It's like being a biological entity was not enough for this intelligence that we are, so we became a mental entity, a creature of mind, a creature of language. But now we've reached that point where just being a creature of language is not enough. And poetically, the pattern of intelligence is that it's tunneling through worlds. We are a mysterious force that is tunneling through different realities and constantly restructuring itself in accordance to them. Imagine somebody is asked, hey man, what were you in a past life? And the person says, who says my past life ever ended? It's another way of saying, like, eternity doesn't die. Or as Plato says, time is the moving image of eternity. I feel what enlightenment is to realize what you put in the moment and what the moment was before you put anything in the moment. So it's a kind of like a trick question where how can we know before we could know? How could we know what we were before the concept of knowledge, the possibility of knowledge was there? And so I guess, as I was reading in the essay, like the unknown doesn't have much to teach because we become the teaching. It's like we're going from what a physical entity ideologically, what a body ideologically needs to do, to in some sense how the mind non-ideologically in an unknown way needs to be. So it's kind of like I would say maybe it's like a round circle, not round circle, but maybe it's like, like a wave, like a sine wave, something that has peaks and troughs. That means it's like, imagine history, right, being something where it's like being the peak, and then I don't know how to say it, but it's like I'm saying where just like a dolphin jumps in and out of water, our consciousness is entering unknown states and known states all the time. And in this journey of known, unknown, known, unknown, known, unknown, it eventually reaches this point where the being has experienced infinite known variables and infinite unknown variables. It's like what would the boredom of an infinite being look like? It would look like an allowance to be the eternal space. You see, it's like, what is freedom? If we're a shape, shapes change in the world, so freedom can't be a shape, hilariously true, that the mystical freedom I'm speaking about. So if freedom can't be a shape, it can't be conditional, we're left with unconditional, right, with the unconditional. So it's kind of saying the conditional personality is realizing it's an unconditional presence, but the conditions for the personality are based on time and change. So it's another way of saying when a person realizes that their mind is happening as their body, that's poetically an instance of soul. In meditation, some teacher had said, some super guru had said that the space between your thoughts is where nature is present, undisturbed. We are here to discover the world. We are fascinated by the world, and now the species has come to a realization that it is now fascinated by its inner world. And once our inner lives and outer lives activate, it's like two wings of a bird, and that's the true advanced humanity. The advanced humanity is not defined by dimensions, but defines the dimensions. Thank you for listening, dear viewers. Much blessings and namaste. Rise, mankind, rise. For now is the only moment. Much blessings and namaste.